Vladimir Putin has been a dominant figure on the world stage for over 2 decades. As the president of Russia, his decisions have far-reaching consequences. Putin's actions in Ukraine have reshaped global politics. His leadership has been marked by both ambition and controversy. Putin's rise to power began in the late 1990s. He quickly established himself as a strong and assertive leader. His vision for Russia involved restoring its former glory and influence. This vision has led him to challenge the existing world order. Putin's relationship with the West has been particularly fraught. He views NATO expansion as a direct threat to Russian security. He has accused the United States and its allies of trying to weaken Russia. These tensions have come to a head in the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Putin's legacy will be debated for years to come. His supporters see him as a defender of Russian interests. His critics view him as an authoritarian ruler who has undermined democracy. The war in Ukraine is a stark reminder of the high stakes involved in Putin's pursuit of power. Putin's decision to invade Ukraine is driven by a complex set of motivations. These motivations are rooted in history, ideology, and geopolitics. Understanding these motivations is crucial to comprehending the current crisis. One of Putin's primary goals is to prevent Ukraine from joining NATO. He views NATO expansion as a direct threat to Russia's security and a violation of previous agreements. Putin believes that a Western-aligned Ukraine would be a launching pad for attacks on Russia. Another key goal is to reassert Russian dominance over Ukraine. Putin sees Ukraine as an integral part of Russia's historical and cultural sphere of influence. He rejects Ukraine's right to self-determination and seeks to bring it back under Moscow's control. Putin also aims to weaken Ukraine as an independent state. A strong and prosperous Ukraine would pose a challenge to Russia's regional hegemony. By undermining Ukraine's stability and sovereignty, Putin hopes to prevent it from becoming a successful democratic model in the region. Finally, Putin's actions in Ukraine are part of a broader effort to restore Russia to its former glory. He seeks to re-establish Russia as a great power on the world stage. The invasion of Ukraine is a high-risk gamble to achieve this goal. The current war in Ukraine began in February 2022 with a full-scale Russian invasion. This invasion followed months of military buildup and escalating tensions between Russia and Ukraine. The international community condemned the invasion and imposed sanctions on Russia. Putin attempted to justify the invasion as a special military operation to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. These claims were widely dismissed as baseless propaganda. The invasion was met with fierce resistance from Ukrainian forces and civilians. The early days of the invasion were marked by intense fighting across Ukraine. Russian forces targeted military installations, government buildings, and civilian infrastructure. Ukrainian cities were bombarded with artillery and missiles. Millions of Ukrainians fled their homes, seeking safety in neighboring countries. The invasion of Ukraine sent shockwaves through the international community. It was the largest military conflict in Europe since World War II. The conflict has had a profound impact on global security, economics, and diplomacy. Despite initial expectations of a swift victory, Russia's advance in Ukraine has been much slower and more costly than anticipated. Ukrainian resistance has been fierce and well-coordinated, inflicting heavy casualties on Russian forces. Russia's military campaign has been plagued by logistical problems, low morale among troops, and inaccurate intelligence. The invasion has exposed weaknesses in Russia's military capabilities and planning. Western sanctions have also taken a toll on the Russian economy, limiting its ability to sustain a prolonged conflict. While Russia has made some territorial gains, it has failed to capture key cities such as Kyiv and Kharkiv. The conflict has settled into a war of attrition, with both sides heavily entrenched. The human cost of the war has been devastating, with thousands of civilians killed and millions displaced. The slow pace of Russia's advance has led to growing frustration within Russia. Some critics have questioned the Kremlin's handling of the war. The economic sanctions imposed by the West are also having a significant impact on the Russian economy. Ukraine's defense against the Russian invasion has been characterized by determination, resilience, and a willingness to fight for their country's sovereignty. Ukrainian forces have surprised many with their effectiveness, repelling Russian advances and inflicting heavy casualties. The Ukrainian people have demonstrated remarkable unity and resolve in the face of aggression. Citizens have taken up arms to defend their homes and cities. Volunteers have provided logistical support to the military and humanitarian aid to those in need. Ukraine's resistance has been bolstered by significant military and financial aid from Western countries. The United States and its allies have provided Ukraine with billions of dollars worth of weapons, ammunition, and other military equipment. This assistance has been crucial in enabling Ukraine to hold off a much larger and better-equipped Russian military. The West has also imposed crippling sanctions on Russia, targeting its economy and key individuals. Section 6. NATO's response and expansion. NATO has played a significant role in the conflict in Ukraine, providing support to Ukraine and taking steps to deter further Russian aggression. The alliance has condemned Russia's invasion and called for a ceasefire and withdrawal of Russian troops. NATO members have provided Ukraine with billions of dollars worth of military aid, including weapons, ammunition, intelligence sharing, and training. This support has been crucial in enabling Ukraine to defend itself against Russia's military offensive. In response to the increased threat from Russia, NATO has also strengthened its military presence in Eastern Europe. The alliance has deployed additional troops, aircraft, and warships to the region to deter any potential Russian aggression against NATO members. Furthermore, the war in Ukraine has prompted Finland and Sweden to abandon their long-standing policies of neutrality and apply for NATO membership. This historic decision reflects the growing concern about Russian aggression and the desire for collective security. Section 7. The potential for peace talks. Despite the ongoing fighting, there have been tentative efforts to find a diplomatic solution to the conflict. However, significant obstacles remain, and the prospects for a negotiated settlement appear dim at present. Russia has demanded that Ukraine cease all military actions, recognize the independence of the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics, and pledge never to join NATO. These demands are seen as non-starters by Ukraine and its Western allies. Ukraine, for its part, insists on the restoration of its territorial integrity, including Crimea, which Russia annexed in 2014. Ukraine also seeks security guarantees from the international community to prevent future Russian aggression. The United States and its allies have called for a ceasefire and a diplomatic solution, but have ruled out direct military intervention in the conflict. They have imposed severe sanctions on Russia in an effort to pressure Moscow to negotiate. Section 8. The impact of U.S. politics. The outcome of the war in Ukraine will have significant implications for the United States and its role in the world. A Russian victory would be a major setback for the U.S.-led international order and could embolden other authoritarian regimes. The war has already tested the Biden administration's foreign policy, forcing it to balance support for Ukraine with the risk of escalating the conflict with Russia. The administration has provided significant military and financial aid to Ukraine, but has ruled out direct military intervention. The war has also exposed divisions within the United States over its role in the world. Some argue that the U.S. should do more to support Ukraine, including providing it with more advanced weapon systems. Others believe that the U.S. should focus on its own domestic problems and avoid getting bogged down in another foreign conflict. The outcome of the 2024 U.S. presidential election could have significant implications for the war. A second Trump presidency could lead to a shift in U.S. policy towards Russia, potentially weakening support for Ukraine. Section 9. Conclusion. An uncertain future. The war in Ukraine is a tragedy with far-reaching consequences. It is a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict and the fragility of peace. The outcome of the war remains uncertain, but one thing is clear: the world will never be the same. Putin's invasion of Ukraine has shattered the illusion of a post-Cold War peace in Europe. It has also exposed the dangers of authoritarianism and the importance of defending democratic values. The war has unified the West in its opposition to Russian aggression, but has also revealed divisions over the best way to confront Putin. The war's long-term impact on the international order remains to be seen. It has already led to a reassessment of security arrangements in Europe and beyond. It has also raised questions about the future of globalization and the role of international institutions. The war in Ukraine is a turning point in history. It is a wake-up call to the world that the threat of authoritarianism is real, and that the defense of freedom and democracy requires constant vigilance.